Okay, so for mirror replacement on most vehicles, this being an '05 Toyota pickup, going to encounter the situation where either a mirror's wore out or somebody hit it or you hit something and the mirror's broken, and unfortunately for the most part they're not really repairable. Most of the time the solution is just replace the whole mirror, and for that usually the way to replace it is pretty much the same for most vehicles. Usually you have to remove this piece of trim and the entire door panel, and that's because with power mirrors, with heated mirrors, you always have a wire harness that likes to go down into here. Normally, with this piece, just pop it off, and there's always going to be some clips on it. Make sure you transfer those over from here to the piece. If they come off, it makes it easier to put back on, but you think that that would be it, but no. A lot of times you have a hidden bolt or nut, as in the case of this vehicle. There's three, one's hidden, but also the wire harness. And this wire harness, I'm going to show you guys, that's about all you can pull up, and the harness goes down into here, so there's no way to disconnect it without pulling the door panel. So to pull the door panel on most vehicles is very similar to this one. There's always hidden screws and usually attaching points. With this particular one, you just pop this cover off. I've already done this, that's why it came off so easy, but you have usually an attaching point in the front or the rear and a pivot point. So like this vehicle, you pry up from the front and slide it out. Some of them you have to pry from the back, or some of them it just has quick connect points and you just pop it off. But you have to know, or just be careful. Otherwise, if you break the plastic on some of these, then you have to replace the whole little panel. Otherwise, it won't stay in position. And then these have these little covers. I just like to use a little 90-degree pick to open those up and expose the screw heads, which usually are Phillips, sometimes they're Torx bit, but find all the hidden screws, you take those out. Sometimes there's one or two in here. Sometimes vehicles have a panel that the door, your armrest I should say, pops off, they're behind. But most of the time there's usually only three, and usually there's one here, one up here by the inside handle, and there's sometimes one here. You undo those, and then on most vehicles, either the panel actually lifts up and slides off, or in this panel's case, it has plastic clips that attach the door to the door panel. And in this case, you just want to take a screwdriver back behind here, being careful not to scratch the paint, or a body panel remover, and pop this out. And it releases pretty easy, and you just pop all the clips around the outside, lift the panel up, and they always have a rail right here where this sits on. You lift that off. So out and up, this panel comes off. And then remember to unplug any wire harnesses. This one I actually just grabbed my fingers behind there and pulled on it and popped it loose and then lift it off. And that's it for this one. There's no other plugs, so I can remove this panel. I just gently set it aside. And here you go. And this is actually exactly what you do too if you're doing an inside door handle. Maybe one of the cables broke, the door latch, or if you're doing the window regulator, window motor, same application for pretty much any modern new vehicle. But as you can see the mirror, there's the hidden nut and the wire harness down here. Sometimes you can actually release this with a long pick coming down through here, but considering it's easy to pull the door panels, it's just a lot easier for me to pull the door handle than try and get down into some really tight areas. So with that released, I can unbolt the mirror, put the new one on, and reverse the process. So if you know what you're doing, I mean, it is kind of an easy 10-minute ordeal to do a mirror, but I mean, some door panels take a little bit longer. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can take a little bit longer to find all the hidden attaching points and screws. But this is something that really no one should be scared of trying to do. as long as you have simple tools at home, it's pretty simple. Okay, there you go. All back together again. Literally, even with filming this, it took less than 10 minutes to do. Not a big deal at all. And mirror looks good. I actually want to give a shout out to Nate at Straight Line Refinishing. He actually sprayed this mirror for me because it's a lot easier to have him mix up the paint in his bank than me get some and spray it myself for just one mirror. So thanks, Nate, for doing that for me. Actually did a great job on that mirror. I'm pretty impressed with his work. But mirror is done. And it is now the best looking part of this whole truck. So now, got to figure out a bunch of other stuff with it. This thing's been driven and no maintenance has been done. It's got engine noises. It's got clutch problems. The list is tall. So I'm going to look into it and see what else this thing needs. But as far as mirror replacement on most modern vehicles, that is how you do it. Pretty simple, easy, and straightforward.